dias, Gunners Collective TV. Back at it, you already know. Like a motherfucking smack addict. Bye up, orale. Right? In a menudo style, in a direct fashion, man, we're going to get straight to it. But before we do, let's hit that like and subscribe button. Put your notification bell on also. That way you're directed in the direction of the dope content that I am bringing. And I highly appreciate all the support I've been getting. Now, I wanted to tell a story. And you can see the thumbnail right there. Butchery. You know, what's that word butchered you hear all the time, you know? Guys that have been in prison, they use that word quite extensively, a lot. You know, hey, that vato got butchered. Because when you're on a level 4 or level 3 yard, there's no other way to explain the type of butchery that happens. You know, if you're on a level 1 yard or even in the youth authority, you could describe that as fuckery. You know, a whole bunch of people doing a whole lot of fuckery, you know, playing games, trying to be something. Now, I have seen some butchery happen in YA, but at the same time, a lot of it was fuckery. A lot of it was gentlemen, you know, trying to play a prison role or playing what they thought prison was going to be. So they were getting an early start, a head start, right? But in prison, you're there. You know, on them level 4s and them level 3 yards, you are there. It is what it is. Everybody, there's no hands-on policies. Everybody is ready to do what they got to do. Well, I remember getting to a prison and, you know, everything was going good. Everybody was functioning, doing what they had to do. It was a pretty mellow prison as far as very respectful. Wasn't no beef happening. You know, everybody was keeping it respectful to each other. Everybody was watching each other. You had your targets. You had your assignments as far as who to watch. Your counts were going. Everything was good. But at the same time, there wasn't no pleito. You know, it wasn't ongoing guerra as far as that yard, that particular place. It was more so, I watch you, you watch me. Shit, homie. Guard watches us all. And that's it. Excuse outside, man. They're doing a little lawn mowing for your boy. So now, if you could hear that. Anyway, so I'm kicking back and this prison was top heavy with woods and skins, right? There was a lot of them. You know, you don't see very many of them in a lot of places. But in this particular prison, there was a lot of them. And we had to be on alert as Norteños because they posed maybe a greater threat to us than the Southsiders did. Reason being, the Southsiders were being very respectful. You know, when that yard was flipped, when we were allowed to hit that yard, we were given bars, man. We were given, you know, bleachers to sit at. We were basically not, we didn't have to take anything, man. We didn't have to struggle or fight for anything. It was freely given by the Southsiders because they already knew what time it was. They were like, hey, homie, you know, respects. This is where your people could sit. This is where your people could do their bars work. This is where your people could work. Whatever the case may be, man, it was all love. I mean, I understood there, man, that at that point in time right there, that prison had changed compared to being in prison years before. You know, things were changing for the better, for the betterment of the people. What the struggle was fought for, we were gaining and achieving that social status of equality. We were being treated equal. So everything was going smooth criminal, like a Michael Jackson song. And all of a sudden, without the weird charges, right? Everything was going good. And this white guy gets there. Now, this white boy pulls up, man. And if you don't know prison back in them days, pre-end of hostilities and all that, you know, there were certain targets that were not allowed to walk on the yards. If they were identified, you know, didn't mean they had bad cases, didn't mean that they were dirty. They were actually them ones, right? But if we identified, you know, an AB or an MA or a Nazi lowrider on the yard, then our whole goal and mission was to get them off the yard. And likewise, man, if they could identify a northern structure, or if they could identify, you know, NF or whatever, then their whole get down was, you know, to remove that person or to get at that person. It's because, you know, they knew that that was going to be a target. We knew that that was going to be a target. That was a person that could not be on a yard with us functioning because it was going to be drama. It was going to be problems. And sometimes these guys were easy to identify, you know, just their swag, their presence. You know, there's an aura about them. No, Wes Watson, not like the aura coming out of your ass, the real aura, right? There's an aura. It's like a shiny light around them. You could just tell people gravitate towards leaders, natural born leaders. But at the same time, there are a lot of vatos that were smart enough to fly under the radar, fly under the detection of the administration because they didn't want to be validated. They didn't want to get slammed in the shoe because back in them days, they were slamming you in the shoe all day long. You were getting validated in indeterminates. It was a wrap. So there was a lot of homies that would come and they were actually part of something and they would fly under the radar, man. We all had to do what we had to do to maintain and blend in. You know, and if you look just like a regular cat that was minding his own, man, and just doing his program, most vatos would overlook you. You know, if you came in standing tall above them, all chest all out, poked out, whether you were that one or not, man, you could get you misidentified as that and be targeted. You know, and that's just the way prison was back then. You know, I'm sure it's changed a lot now. Now, vatos and individuals that once couldn't walk the yards based on politics or even administration are now there. So anyways, this white guy pulls up, and he had pulled up from Calipatria. And when he pulls up, man, there's a different aura and swag about him. And you could tell just the way he's looking at the yard, just the way he's starting to dictate movement with his people, the way he's respected. They're bringing him out a lot of canteen. You know, he's getting that fat care package, a little bit fatter than the others. That is recognized and noticed. One thing about Norteños is they notice everything, homie. You know, if you didn't comb your hair that morning, you chip out on the vato. Yesterday had a flat top. Today it's a top that's flat. Something's going on here. There's something right. You know, very precautious, very observant. You know, that's what you're taught as a Northerner. You're taught to be very observant of the yard, all yard activities, man, to watch everything that's going on, maintain what you're doing, but at the same time, no movement shall be unwatched. That's it. You know, if they're going to watch us, shit, we're going to watch them. And that's how that was given and laced up. So anyways, this guy pulls up off the bus, man. Like I said, he's getting all the love. He's got all the swaggy P, right? He's got all the swag. And you already know this guy's somebody. Will come to pass through proper investigation and people just peeping him out. He's a Nazi lowrider, right? An NLR. Now, the NLRs had been slammed back for a while. They had been identified as one of the major groups, one of the major forces behind what was happening on them yards. You know, we all know about the big four prison gangs. And then, of course, you know, gangs like Northern Structure, you know what I mean? Or the Hermanos or whatever, however you want to say it, man. And then, of course, you had the Nazi lowriders, which was a group that was started in the Youth Authority in the 70s. And, of course, gravitated into the prison system. Did have their inter-beefs with the AB. Did have beefs, you know, amongst their own. There was a lot of shit going on. But one thing was that they were a sworn enemy of all Norteños, man. You couldn't function on the yard with an NLR because they were always in the mix. You know, they were sympathizers to the cause of the Southsiders. They were very loyal to their people, but at the same time, they were the type of white boy, the crazy white boys, man. A younger generation than the brand, you know, individuals that actually at one point in time tried to overtake the brand or get their influence influenced. So this cat gets on there and you could tell, man, he has the typical white boy tattoos, the horns on the head, swastikas all over, lightning bolts under the eye. He's earned his letters, man. He's not your average wood, brother, right? He's not a skinhead. He's not a wood. What the fuck is he, right? He has a big old whip. You know what I mean? Kind of looks like a Chicano. And that's what I always tripped out on the Nazi lowriders. You know, back in my days, a lot of them carried themselves with the Chicano swag, right? A lot of them, they kicked it in YA or they had a lot of willings and dealings with Southsiders. So they started to gravitate towards that stilo. They started to adapt that stilo to their get down. You know, you'd see a lot of the woods that were from Southern California, especially, you know, say words like veterano or say words like, yeah, I'm an OG, homie. You know what I mean? Things like that. The way they talk, their lisp, their style, homes, reminded me of an old school veterano from LA, you know, or from San or Salas, you know, these old school guys, these old school places that, you know, have a lot of cholos. So anyways, this cat's on the yard moving and grooving. And he's there for about a month, and we have a little junta. Huilas get thrown around from compa to compa, and the homeboy tells us in our building, he's like, hey, man, I think we need to make a move on this cat because, you know, he's one of them things. Basically, he's not supposed to be here. He can't function amongst us, so we're going to send a couple people at him. It is what it is, you know. So I pull a homie to the side, and I'm like, hey, we got to be sure, brother, because, you know, we can't start a war, a guerra, because if Northerners get off on the whites, it's automatically going to go up. Everybody's going to get off. One jump, all jump. The yard's going to get laid down. And then the Southsiders could possibly get involved. Not that they're aligned with the whites, because that's never been the case. I know people like to think that. They have struggled together. I guess an enemy of an enemy is my friend. That has come into play. But for the most part, gente, it's not gonna be like, you know, like you think. Prison is not a movie. Sorry, this is not Felon or Shot Caller or fucking even American Me, homie. This is true in real life. So at that point in time, you have to make life decisions. You have to make sure that if you target someone for any reason, it's the righteous reason, because everything will come back at you. You know, you will answer for whatever happens on that yard. You will go somewhere and people will question you, and you will have to have the proper and the righteous answers. Because if you don't, homie, you might or you might not get your due process, and then you're whacked. And now you're on the other side wondering, damn, what the fuck just happened? Hey, that was called Hurricane Norteño. It happened fast, huh? Bang, bang. So anyways, the homie's like, nah, hey, a homeboy identified on his building, because he wasn't on our building, and the homeboy identified he had, you know, Nazi lowrider symbolization. Either he's a sympathizer and a loyalist to that cause, or he's won. Homes, more than likely he's won the way the whites are treating him. And that's one thing about the Woods, man, was although a lot of the skins and a lot of the Woods, man, were very structured and very militant and kept their fucking cards up their sleeve, there was a lot that showed their Joker, right? There was a lot, just by the way that they moved and the way that they utilized speech and the way they talked, you could tell who they were. And this guy definitely wasn't trying to hide anything. He should have been, but he wasn't. So the plan went into effect, man. You know, I wasn't in a position to know who the exact hitters were. No one really is, other than the guy who's running, you know, controlling that yard as far as the yard security, man. He's going to go ahead, because the shit was going to happen out on the yard. He's going to go ahead and plan that and process that. You know, we were just told to strap up weaponry, be available and be ready at all points and times, because if it goes down and the whites want that smoke, we're going to give them all that. So, of course, just like anyone else, man, I'm on swivel. I know what's happening that week. Well, we start to notice something going on, man. As we're going to chow, we all go to chow. My building gets released with their building, and we're all eyes on deck now. Now we got Vatos on the yard, two hitters behind him, 2 hitters in front of him. People are keeping this guy. He has a security blanket. And he don't even know it. He ain't doing no movement on that yard without a northerner man being present or watching, you know, to the best abilities. And that's just how it is. Once you're targeted, homes, for eradication or to be removed off the yard, even if you're from a different group segment, man, people are going to blanket you. You're going to be watched, homie. Hey, where's that about to go? Sasuke, I think he went to medical, homes. I think he has herpes. Does he? What kind of fucking lotion did they give him? The good shit? Because over there, they didn't give me calamine. You know, that's how it is. So we start to notice something is going on amongst the white boys, man. They're having a few little meetings. We're starting to think that maybe, you know, somebody flipped. Maybe someone went to the oil. Someone fell off. Because in them times, there's a lot of people falling off, man. In the middle of the night, rolling it up, never coming back, right? So we're thinking maybe the information got passed along, man. Maybe these white boys are going to get off first. You know, so we could see they're on the other side of the yard. But when you walk around, man, we'd send people on the track. You could actually see, you know, what was going on. There was a few Southsiders that were involved in some of the conversation, but for the most part, that group is going to stay out of the mix, man, if it don't involve them. When it does involve them, they would already got off. One thing about Southsiders, anyone poses any type of threat or says something about them, just like Northerners, they would have got off. No fucking, oh, let's plan this shit and wait a minute and see what's going to happen. No, fuck that. Southsiders will walk right across the yard and start swinging and stabbing people. That's their move. So the more talks that are going on, the more at ease we are. You know, something might be internal. There might be something internally going on with this guy. It's hold up, man. You know what I mean? Why are we going to do soldados? Let's see what the fuck's going to happen over here, right? You know what I mean? This is party time. And something did happen. You know, that's what I'm saying about being aware if you're in prison. Because you'll notice little things. And so what had happened was, I guess, you know, I found out later on doing whole time, man, through this white boy. He got at me and he was a cool dude. He had fell off, dropped out, man. This was about the time that, you know, I was done. My career ended. So we could have these conversations. You know, we had group yards that we'd actually go, I know, PC yards or a whole bunch of protective custody cats. Call it what you want, Holmes. It was group yard with a whole bunch of men that would kill you on a yard. There it is there, Holmes. You know what I mean? Out there functioning. Who once were enemies, man, decided that for no other reason to step back or got pushed back or just were no longer in good standings. Now, believe me, if you were, you know, any type of weird motherfucker, you didn't go in that night yard, man. Most of them dudes stood inside. And when I say most, every once in a while, one would leak out and then he'd leak back leaking in, if you know what I'm saying. So now, get at this white boy, and this is after the movida goes down, right? So what happens is about a week, you know, a week after we've held these conversations, we're starting to get antsy. Like, something's got to happen. We've already did a couple removals on the yard. There's been a couple homeboys that rolled up and just weren't in righteous standings. They were on ice, they were on freeze, and they got melted. So now we're wondering what the fuck's going on. And one thing about prison, man, is always drama. There's always something going on. There's always the next hit or the next move or the next homie getting checked or the next paperwork being brought in, or, you know, now it's the next cell phone conversation or whatever, you know, with the next tablet swipe. So anyways, these Vatos fucking over there, we're noticing the white boys they're tripping. Okay, so building business. So he's on a different building, man. And, you know, it's about right after chow, we come in and they have one side in the day room, man. They're doing their little day room thing. Then they're going to fuck one tier. Then they're going to shut that down. Then we're going to have our little fucking TV time. And then it is what it is. It's down for the night. When the fucking alarm goes off, down, right? Of course, everybody takes their knee. We're wondering, we look immediately. That's how it was in prison. As soon as the yard goes down, everybody's looking. You know, before you just drop and fucking lay on your stomach like a fish and flop around, you look to see if it's your homeboys involved. Because if your homeboys are getting jumped on, or if your homeboys doing a movida, homes, unless it's a removal, man, and it's set up that way, you run over there and participate, man. Because if you don't, that's your ass. This ass said, that's your ass, right? So everyone's looking, blacks, whites, brothers, others. You know, are you good? Are you good? You're good, Wood? You're good? And it was a different building that was cracking off. And, you know, so the next morning we come out, man, we go on lockdown that night. I remember the next morning they released us for chow, but they didn't release any of the Woods or the whites. Whites stood on lockdown. So we're wondering what the fuck happened. So we get out of homeboy from the different building. He was like, hey, bro, they ran up in that cat cell, you know, the NLR cat. We're like, yeah, they're like, they butchered them from earlobe to fucking nostril, homie. They whacked them. Like, for reals? Who did it? I think I don't know who did it. It just got did. And I'm like, fuck, well, what happened? They beat us to the punch, like a Mary Wells song. What happened? They're like, I don't know, man. He must have did something. Well, here's the backstory on it, man. Here's the big question, why they butchered this cat. Because they butchered him, man. He got took out, never to return, man. I don't know if they bodied him. But according to what the homie said, he wasn't coming back for a very long time. He was, you know, they made ribbons out of him. You know, bow ties. Put him on a present. That's what they did to this cat. I mean, it ended up being his own people. So when I get at the white guy, I'm in the hole months later. And the conversation comes up on the yard and we're chopping it up. I'm like, whatever happened to that cat? He was in LR, huh? They were like, yeah. He was like, yeah, he was, bro. You know, or at least he was portraying that image. But he had a lot of the homies shook, man. He started trying to switch a lot of things up. And, you know, the Woods, man, weren't going out like that. The Skins were with the program. The Woods were like, nah, fuck that, you know. We're not going to let some guy that just got here change our program, you know. And that's one thing about the Woods, the difference with the Woods and the Skins, where the Skins will be more structured, obedient to the politics, because that's how they rock. You know, they're very political group. Whereas the Woods, you know, there's a lot of cats that ain't racist, that ain't down with the OPP, that ain't never been in that, you know, type of mix, that just are with their gente because they understand that's the way it's supposed to be. But they don't adhere or you know, observe racism and hate. They're just, you know, that's not them. But they still must go with the flow or they'll get fucked off. So anyways, this cat, I guess he's having a conversation with his celly. And his celly, he's going to do some tab work on his celly. And he starts to tell his celly that, you know, he was a porn star when he was on the streets. That he was making hella money and whatever, right? And so that started to become a joke amongst them. Oh, the homie was a porn star. And I remember back when I did time with a homeboy Tweety from Napa, you know, he used to say, I was in the movie American Bukkake, homie, right? And we used to clown. But I guess his celly got at one of his homeboys on the streets. It was like, man, look this dude up. See if this dude was in it. And it happened to be some gay porn, right? It happened to be some stuff he wasn't supposed to be doing. And you can't have someone like that doing something like that, man. You can't have you know, one thing about prison is, you know, you're only as strong as your weakest link, man. Your image is where your respect is built in the foundation of your respect, right? The way you look comes. You might think, you know, that's why people carry themselves with professionalism. They're very clean cut, man. They take care of their grooming. They don't smell like shit. They're out there on their yards maintaining because, you know, you're an image of your people. You know, that's just like the cats in Goshen, okay? They kill these kids, man, allegedly. And then, you know, you have a whole bunch of people in the comments talking about, oh, look at the Northerners. They're what they do. You know, not understanding that, you know, that had nothing to do with North, Holmes. That had to do with personal. That had to do with fucking individuals fucking not really knowing what the fuck time it is, or not knowing what time it is and being on drogas or something. That's what that had to do with. Then it's not a reflection of the North. Now, at first, it's going to look that way. You know, it's definitely going to look that way. And the same thing would go if it was the South and they were accused of that. It would look that way. But if you dig deeper, Holmes, men will be men, man. It doesn't matter what gang they're from. So anyways, and that's who should be blamed, or allegedly. So they find out that this cat was involving himself in panda business, meaning he was involved himself in big hurt business. He was doing gay shit, right? Porn. And, you know, in prison, man, and in jail, California's prison system, that's not, you can't do that. Let's just say that. So I know in society, man, you know, I myself, I don't care what you do, Holmes, behind your closed doors. I don't give a fuck about none of your business. That's your shit. But in prison, man, if that's identified and you're supposed to be that somebody, you know, running the program of many men, well, many men will wish death upon you, like a 50 Cent song. And that's what happened, man. They went in there and they got it. They got with this business for that one reason right there, man. And I remember the homeboy, you know, right after that had happened, before I went to the hole, the homeboy saying to me, shit, look, the Woods did it for us. You know what I mean? Mighty white of them, brother. I was like, damn. And we never knew exactly what happened to this day. Now motherfuckers know. But yeah, that's exactly the reasoning behind that. You know, his shit got identified. And, you know, that goes without saying. You know, that's why when you're in prison, you're what you're selling, you're telling stories, man. Some of those can be used against you, man. And in this case, you know, he didn't expect his cellular to go back and be like, double back, tell his homeboy, like, hey, look this fool up, because he didn't believe him, right? And when he did, he said, he's like, I don't know, homie. All I see was 2 chorras and hairy balls. You decide, right? And that was it. All he seen was 2 pedazos and 3 hitters. And that's just what that was, man. Anyways, with that being said, man, true stories, facts, man, shit happens. That's why in prison, man, you got to stay aware, man. If you got shit that you've done in your past, it will creep to your future. That's facts. With that being said, I hope that you move smooth with a purpose. I hope that you enjoy the story, man. My stories are not here to thrill you. They're here to entertain you, but at the same time, they're also here to give you a message, some of that knowledge you can't get in college. And the fucking message that I'm here to give you is youngsters that are getting incarcerated. Don't think just because you hang with the fellas, everything is cool, man. Sometimes you're so cool, they might call you a culo. You just never know, man. So you always got to be on your tippy toes, man. Toenails crunched. And that's just facts. And I ain't talking about Captain Crunch. I'm talking about Crunch. Just say. You know what it is, man. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive and struggle and strive for what I honestly and truly believe in, and that's the betterment of all people coming together, black and brown. The Woods, brother, you know I got nothing but love. Splinter doesn't like me no more. Still got love for him, though. So I respect. Maybe not love, because I'm fucking loving another guy like that. But I respect him. Bang, bang. Gun gang.